Now moving on to our next speaker, Melody Gardiner. I met Melody only a few months ago at Queer Stories. She's an awesome storyteller. Last year, Melody ran Australia's largest marriage equality Facebook page called Equal Marriage Rights Australia. Welcome, Melody.
Thank you. Where would we be without 78? Where would you be without 78? I'd like to pause and take a moment to reflect on that. For me, the first Mardi Gras was 8 years before I was born. I live in Western Sydney and still do. I grew up in a strong Catholic community in a very conservative area. As a kid, I didn't know gays and lesbians existed. We watched a lot of ABC though. And I remember this kaleidoscope of colour and protest and feathers and giant paper mache heads. Boys kissing boys on the TV. This forbidden visual feast of fabulousness and politics. Like so many of the younger generations, Mardi Gras was my introduction to community and who I am. It wasn't until I was older that I began to understand the significance of those images on the screen and the personal cost of the actions that brought us here. I am still learning. As many of you know, 78 was not the first Pride or the first March for our rights. I think Peter has covered the history comprehensively. Mardi Gras was a brutal turning point in our history. Because of 78 and the turn of opinion and the events in the years and months before and after, I was born into a state where it wasn't illegal to be gay. Like others here, I can honestly say I would not be here if it wasn't for decades of action of those who have gone before. As a young activist, 78ers can be great at challenging your politics. Even if that's sometimes telling you to leave the politics out of it. While their friend next to them tells you need to be more political, more direct action, and someone else tells you need some more glitter. I particularly want to thank Steve Warren for encouraging my friend Ben and I to gate crash the mayoral reception for Ron Austin's 85th birthday party a few years ago using his +1. It was eye-opening and very humbling to listen to 78ers' stories and perspectives on action. The night had a big impact on me. We also drank a lot of free champagne. Last Mardi Gras, I was fortunate to ride passenger in an equality float with Peter and Bon. It was Bon's last Mardi Gras. We marched up Oxford Street in style in a convertible with the roof down, celebrating 50 years together and campaigning until the last. I'll never forget the crowd's roar. More, I'll never forget Peter standing up in a moving car at Taylor Square to hold their sign up for the TV cameras. I share these memories because as an activist today, the impact of 78 is a living, breathing thing. It is ongoing, it is resistance, it is celebration, it is multi-generational. It's remembering and respect for where we have come from, those who have fought before us and those still no longer with us. We fight for those who have gone before and those still to come, all the while debating where we are going and how our histories and stories should be told. 40 years on and preparing to speak today, I sat down and wrote out a laundry list of what's next, my own little wish list. A dozen LGBTI issues that need our action right now. housing, disability, aged care, health, education, non-discrimination, policing, trans intersex, Indigenous, and so many, many more. It's a list that would sound pretty familiar to activists 40 years ago, and pretty familiar and similar to what Barbara just spoke about a moment ago. I think Peter and Barbara have both done justice to the work that still needs to be done. And therein lies the truth. There is no definitive what's next, no single endpoint in fighting for our communities and our people. Everything we do today is a continuation of the work that has gone before us. In 78, we were fighting for our lives, and in 2018, we are still fighting for our lives, fighting for our right to exist, our right to survive, and our right to thrive, our right to keep religion and bigotry out of our lives. The struggle continues. It will continue long after you and I are gone. We have hope for a better tomorrow. We know that change will happen because 78ers and those who have gone before have shown us that it is possible and are still working with us to make it happen. 40 years ago, no one could have foretold where we are today. So many had the audacity to dream, to hope, to resist and fight back, to persist even after being locked up and beaten. Many would say they didn't have any other choice, but they did choose, and we owe you a debt of gratitude we can never repay. Thank you.